Hello dear audio wizards and fellow music makers. I recently had a quite challenging master to do. So I thought instead of doing a full mastering review, I would pin just a few points that I feel made a big difference in this mastering session. Without any further ado, let's check it out. Alright, so here we are in Izotope RX. The track is loaded, and what we can see immediately is that there is some asymmetry in the waveform. That is probably a question of phase. Then what we can check is the stereo image, if it's properly in control. And to check the stereo image, I have to call in the waveform stats. And I see that this is really nice. I have no overs. RMS level is really identical for the two sides. So it means that the stereo is properly balanced and also have no DC offset. So let's dive into the interesting part. Okay, so here are two things that comes to my ear. The first is that it's very transient and very compressed. It's even a bit like choked. So this is something I would like to address later on, to add some life and making it breathe a bit more, being less like just snappy and peaky transient-ish. But also, and I'll gonna play it again for you to pay attention to, the kicks are not all in phase with the bass line. You will hear some kicks have more low end and some kicks lack of low end feel like a bit like choked. Pay attention really to the lows. I could check the spectral analysis and have a look at the low-end content here to understand a bit better what's going on. Yeah, you see the decay is not the same for every impact. This part here is pretty dry. There's some more information there. It's really like choked. There is more. Those three are kind of okay. This last one is nice. And this is totally choked. So we're gonna try to fix those two in one row. If it works, we're gonna see. So first we're gonna try to address the phase issue, because asymmetry is a question of phase. With the phase module, we're gonna use suggest mode, letting it do the calculation. Preview and eyes closed. I'm going to bypass to see if it helps. It's even worse. I don't know if you hear it like me, but it feels even that we lose even more low end. So I'm going to try here the adaptive mode. This is very dangerous because it can smear the transients, it can create weird things, but in fact it might be something that helps us in this particular scenario, because the transients are very spiky, and because it's not something consistent, maybe the adaptive mode will work better. We're gonna see. Again, eyes closed. Yeah, in this case, I feel we're gaining something. The kick feels to be decaying a bit longer. It feels a bit more consistent as well. Let's play the first few kicks with and without. So without. And with. Without. Definitely for me this is an improvement. So I'm going to render and I'm going to look at my peaks if I gain some headroom. This is great. We didn't specifically gain overall headroom because we're still having some pretty big spikes over there, look. But what we gained before, after, is something that is more symmetrical. Peaks are more evened out. And so the high peaks I have here, those big ones, now I have just a few ones and the other ones are more symmetric. So this is a great thing. So now I'm going to go for the manual peak reduction of the big peaks. Okay, so this is it for the first part in Izotope RX. Let's now dive into Ableton for the proper mastering session. Okay, so here we are inside Ableton. The track has been imported and I'm going to play it and we're going to start to address some EQ moves. The first thing I hear here on the low end is it feels a bit like congested, both by a low end resonance and by some muddiness, I would say, and then kind of lack of definition of the sub part. It's all mushy and muddy. For this first part, there is something to be addressed on the low end. So, first thing I did was to grab an EQ and cut this strong resonance with a bit of a larger Q, because it's not just one frequency, it's a range. And I did something here where I opened the attack time in the release because I don't want this to be choking. I want to keep the movement and the dynamic of that low end impact, but I want just to tame the level of it. If I was doing it in a static way, I would lose some moments because it's coming in and kicking out. It's not always at the same level. So this is why I use dynamic mode, but dynamic mode with slow time range. Let's listen to that first. Without. With. Without. You feel how it's opening up the whole mix. Only this peaking sound was already like choking the whole thing and kind of giving a sense of compression. This is what we call also frequency masking. When you have one frequency very loud, it can mask things around. And so by ducking that one or that small area, we open the whole mix. And without losing totally the feeling of the lows. But I feel the low end needed also to be boosted a bit because now we have strong, I would say, upper bass, low, medium, but not subs. But I pushed this a lot in the static mode and I did cut it with dynamic mode. So the boost is 15, the cut is 10, so the overall increase is 5, which is a lot. But here, the time constants are kind of short, but not totally very short. So what it's doing is leaving a bit of the attack of that sub part come true. And in fact, it's creating contrast in the subs. It's not like a real boost. It's just like a transient boost somehow, but in a controlled way. Let's listen before and after. Before. After. I did also check with the different modes, and to my ear, linear phase was the one that sounded best in this regard. And I adjusted the Q. And if you look at this in detail, I'm going to zoom in so you can see better. you see that actually the cue here is coming and rejoining this part. So it's also dipping a little bit, like less than 1 dB, but a little bit also that low mid part. So if I take out this dynamic, let's listen the sub part without. You feel it's also playing and helping in this range, right? Let's move forward, and this is when the first real kick comes in. Let's tackle this kick issue and the extension. Let's listen first to how it sounds. For me, there are 3 problems here. The kick feels flat. I have no depth, and this comes also with a lack of low-end extension, frequency-wise, and a lack of decay. It's very, very, very short. So, first thing I'm going to try is with Ozone 12, because I want to address just the kick here and try to avoid touching the bass. So what I'm doing here is loading Ozone 12 and going for the kick module. So I'm supposedly just processing the kick. And what I like to do here is to start doing a first boost in the subs and listen to the delta, and we'll adjust the frequency. We hear mostly the kick, but we hear also some resonance happening here, and this might be because I'm in the analog mode, and so there is some phase issue. Let's listen to this in digital mode. This gives me a better result. So now I'm going to take out the delta mode. I'm listening to the whole thing in context. Loop just one kick. Okay, so now I still have the impression that the low medium area is a bit dry, right? It's a bit boxy, a bit cardboard-ish. And I think that this is a question of smoothing a bit out, of printing a bit of movement to that area. So I'm going to go for ProMB. And ProMB, I'm going to solo this is really a region where things are dry. And so for that, what I'm doing is I'm expanding. I'm not compressing, I'm expanding, but with a slow attack. So I'm not touching the transient, I'm not boosting the transient, I'm pushing just below. So it does pull, and with a fairly long release. I dialed in the expert mode, where I went for 3, and I've narrowed the band. So if you listen to that, it's really like focusing on the punch of the kick. A fairly low knee, because I want the expander to be triggered only with the kick, and so having a smooth knee would make it trigger before with other elements. And listen before, after, just the band before. After. without. So you hear without, it feels a bit dry, a bit like, yeah, too much compressed somehow. And here I'm opening it up. Let's listen in the context of the whole mix without. It feels even like a bit of reverb or pre-delay on reverb. Baha, baha. It adds some sense of depth, even, I would say. Let's compare now the full chain before and after. And for me, this brings the low end control really like locked in. Right, so now we have a very nice control over the low end. The kick has more punch, has more depth, has a bit of a nicer decay. The low mid part is better controlled. So we have now a solid foundation for the track. So the next steps will be controlling the top end, controlling some harshness, adding some width, some depth, making the track a bit more three-dimensional, and having an overall control over the transients. Let's check it out. The full master, and I didn't cheat, I didn't turn on the limiter, so this is gain matched, right? And now look at the headroom. This is the funny part. Look at the headroom we gained, because if I'm playing this before, if you look at the peak meter, and then comes the last limiting stage. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. As usual, if you want to support me and the time and effort I put into making these videos, it's always super nice to leave a little like and to subscribe to the channel. I wish you all the best, and I hope this will help you to push your music to new heights. Take care. Bye-bye.